equivalent of that 12 millimeter 0D. Um, a, Certainly a different optical design and performs differently, but the 6 millimeter with a 2x crop factor gives you roughly that 12 millimeter field of view. And it's yeah, so that one's really cool. We've got a new or it's a we've got a 7.5 millimeter uh, super 35 coverage lens. So again, ultra wide angle. Um, yeah, and so the cinema line, we've got a couple of other fun things coming later this year. Um, so certainly exciting on that front.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Henry and I met up in the field last December, and we used the 14 millimeter f4, and it was great for the video mode. So we made a couple of videos out of that too. Yeah, Henry, what was your experience using the macro lens?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great build quality. Like it felt very high quality, but it was also super lightweight, which is really nice because it's kind of a long lens. And I didn't expect it to be that light. But it's nice to just put it in the bag, and if I come across a macro subject, it's not a problem to have along with me. So it's been great on that front. Nice and sharp, like really great. Like no difference between any kind of Canon L series or anything. Like just super sharp, super high quality. The minimum focus distance, is it a 1-to-1? The RF macro, is that?
The RF macro will go all the way to 2 to 1.
Oh,
You
okay.
have the 100 millimeter 2.8
Yeah.
RF. That one will go all the way to a 2 to 1 magnification.
Yeah, so I've in the past I think I've tried a 1-to-1 in the past, and this is my first 2-to-1, and it's just like another world. It's crazy. Just yesterday I was down in a park, and I was shooting these early daffodils. I could just get basically in the daffodil. That's how close I could get. It was just insane, and that magnification just makes it larger than life for sure. So, it's been great. I really like it. Aperture ring, manual focus ring, all that kind of stuff. It's great as well. I use autofocus a lot, but it's nice to slow down with that. And I think for macro anyway, that's what I ended up doing. So, like you were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the 100 millimeter there, and there's 2 points I'll make on that lens specifically. So one, the 100 millimeter, it's about a $500 lens. So when you compare it to compare it to the actually, so last year Canon launched their RF 100 millimeter 2.8. It's a right, so it's autofocus, it's image stabilized. Um, One of the marquee features that they have on that is it will go to a 1.4 to 1 magnification. So still doesn't make it to a 2 to 1, but it does go beyond a 1 to 1. That's a $1,400 lens. And so, all right, the image stabilization and the autofocus are going to be two of the biggest advantages over the Laowa. But for macro, and certainly as we're approaching 1 to 1 and going beyond it, your autofocus you're going to turn off. You're going to end up using manual focus. And the image stabilization, there's a little bit of an advantage with image stabilization, but um, at those macro distances, um, yeah, the image stabilization struggles to really help stabilize stabilize very much. You're not getting your full 4 or 5 stops of stabilization out of it. And more now you've got in-body image stabilization, right? So that is able to um, yeah, is able to help stabilize the image so you don't need it built into the lens. And it's a pretty significant price difference there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for
Um,
sure.
It,
and then the other, from a size standpoint, just in the last couple months, we've launched a brand new 85 millimeter 2 to 1 macro. So it's an 85 millimeter f5.6 mirrorless native design. So it's designed specifically for mirrorless systems. So Nikon Z, Canon R, Sony E, and the Panasonic L. I think we have a Leica M mount of that lens as well. That's one of the few. We've got a handful of lenses that also come in an M mount, which is cool. Um, so the 85 millimeter, when you're going to an f5.6, we're able to shrink the lens down significantly. So that lens ends up being really, really compact. And so the compromise, all right, it's not a 2.8. We're losing 2 stops of light, but again, for macro and certainly getting into these ultra macro ranges, the depth of field is so shallow that you're not going to be shooting at 2.8. You're going to be shooting down at f5.6 or f11, right? You're going to be closing the aperture down because you need that extra depth of field for your composition most of the time. So yeah, so that 50 or the 85 millimeter f5.6, if you've got a new mirrorless system, or you've been shooting mirrorless for a little while and are interested in macro in any way, that is the lens that I point people towards at this point. It's yeah, just super, super compact. And as you said, right, it's something that's easy, like throwing in the bag, right? The 100 millimeter, it's, yeah, it's light, but it's still a commitment, right? If you're going to go out for a hike and maybe you're going to shoot some landscape as your goal, just throwing the macros, throwing that 100 millimeter in your bag, or any 100 millimeter, not just the Laowa, but any of the manufacturers' 100 millimeters, like, it's a commitment. It's a bigger lens. It's going to take up space in a bag, and yeah, it's light for its size, but it's not light. I wouldn't say, and none of them are light. But the 85 millimeter is, right. It's really easy to say, all right, I'm going to throw this lens in my bag, and maybe I'll end up shooting some macro.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me too, like I'm mostly a wildlife guy, so I'm used to, 4 or 5 pound lenses. So for me, like anything under that size is just like almost nothing. So
Yeah, all right. It's all a matter of perspective
for
there
sure.
then.
Yeah.
If you're walking around with, and you said the 100 500, so I should have known.
No, you're all good. Yeah. I I know what you mean though. It's not like the smallest lens in the world, but for me, it's like the perfect size. So.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I would push you to take a look at that 85 millimeter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been my new favorite, and sort of lived on my Z6 for the last couple weeks for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then the 14 millimeter that you guys had as well. So good for video. It's a good, like, it's, yeah, it was launched last year. It's a DSLR specific design. It doesn't have any mirrorless mounts. It's specifically for EF or Nikon F. And I really look at it as one, like as a good staple all around ultra wide. If you're continuing to shoot in a DSLR system, it's like, yeah, if you have a setup and you're looking for something that'll go wide, yeah, it's just a really great little lens, and it has some creature comforts as well. There's a really cool focus locking system to adjust the infinity focus. So for astrophotography, if you're out shooting and you want to, right, you need to get infinity's focus locked in and targeted specifically. Most lenses, if you adjust the focus all the way to the end, you're going to focus past infinity, which is good. You want that. You don't want a lens that that is going to restrict you and stop you right at infinity, because temperature swings and differences and changes, that slight difference, you may, like, if something shifts, you may get to a point where when you dial the lens all the way over to infinity, it doesn't actually focus at infinity, and so you're limited there. So most lenses allow you to go past to accommodate for slight variations and slight changes, but that 14 millimeter f4, it has a tool that allows you to loosen the focus ring, dial in infinity. So during daylight hours, or when you're in a situation where you've got a good subject out at infinity that you can focus in on and lock on, and then adjust the focus ring over to the end point where it is infinity, lock it down, and then when you're out shooting for the astro work, you can just dial the lens all the way over to and lock it on the end, and you know that you're going to be locked at infinity focus. So a couple cool, relatively unique features on a lens like that.